Hello, everyone, and welcome to AI Agents Hour. My name's Shane. I'm here with Abhi,
What's up, guys?
and as always, we're coming at you. Well, not as always, but most of the time we come at you on Mondays, noon Pacific time, and that's what we're doing today. We're going to be talking to a few guests. We're going to be talking some AI news. We're going to be talking about, if Abhi's a vibe engineer or not, and among other things. We have a lot of cool stuff to talk about today. But how you doing, dude?
Pretty good, man. It was a wild weekend here in San Francisco, but back at HQ right now for today's stream. Last week was Tech Week, which honestly is just an excuse for everyone to party every day, and we did, so it was fun.
That was a good week. I was there most of the week, and I'm glad to leave.
Yeah. Oh man. I wish I could leave right now.
But it was a good week.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess first of all, I'm not in my normal location. How's my audio coming through today?
Pretty good. I can hear
it. Okay. Good. Yeah. It's a holiday today, so the kids are not at daycare, so they are somewhere. So I had to leave. I couldn't stay in my normal office, or we would have little kids coming in during the stream, and so I figured I would go to a different location today.
We have a bunch of stuff to talk about in today's stream, so I'm super stoked about it. There was a lot of drama over the weekend, just in general, about many different things. So, yeah, it's a good day.
Well, if there's one thing that we're good at, it is stoking the flames of drama.
Yes. At least bringing it up.
Yeah. Most of the time, drama just, goes away, but we like to just remind everyone that it happened. So if you missed it, in case you missed it, we will keep you up to date with some of the drama that we've seen. And
little do people know, this is a reality TV show in reality, so we bring it all here.
Yeah, we don't hold anything back. And Ruben is letting everyone know that this is a live show. So if you are watching this live on YouTube, on X, on LinkedIn, just comment if you have questions. We'll try to answer some of them along the way when we can. If you aren't listening to this live, you might be watching it after the fact or listening it after the fact on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. And Ruben does say he's only here. And Ruben's only here for the drama as well. So, good.
Same here.
We will try to bring it today. But if you are listening to this after the fact on either Apple Podcasts or Spotify, if you want to give a 5-star rating, please give us a review. If you want to give us a 4-star or below, find something else to do, please. Don't give us a rating. But we do appreciate 5-star ratings because it does help other people learn about the drama we talk about and hopefully some of the useful stuff as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you want to talk about first?
Some random stuff first. So over on Friday, I hung out with our homie Sherwood, and we recorded a Twitter space called The Agent Boys with the Z. And I don't know if we probably won't do that same format because we were getting drunk, but there was a lot of just good shit talking in there. And so I think we might do another episode in the future, but if y'all want to check that out and hear me talk a bunch of shit about graph theory and random stuff like that, check it out. I could post the link. But yeah, other than that, same old shit.
I saw that come up. I have not listened to it yet, but I knew what you were going to say about it because I just knew what you were getting into. So yeah, now I have to listen.
Yeah, we talked decent amount of bullshit, but it was also pretty good. They asked about like some an engineer from Replit came on, and we chatted with him, and some other like founder type people came on. So it was actually not too bad, given that it was like 9 o'clock or something, and who would want to listen to that shit in general? But I guess people do.
Yeah. So, you know, everyone has different schedules. You never know when someone's just put the kids to bed and that's all they need in their night is, you know, listen to some Agent Boys.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even for this show, like you never know who's watching. And you know, we met some people last week that were like, "Oh, we know you from the stream," and we were like, "Wow, that's cool," because we don't really know outside of the people chatting here live. We don't necessarily know who's watching the show, and so if you are watching, take part in it live, and that gives us some confidence to keep going.
Yeah. All right. We did have some announcements of our own, I guess, this week. So if you didn't see last week, I believe it was on Thursday, we announced, you know, Mastra announced that we had closed our seed round. So we'd raised some money so we can keep bringing more Mastra to you all. So that went, you know, was very well received, but we did have, you know, it was a nice, kind of fun video that was included. In Abhi, you said some choice comments that resonated well, or maybe not so well with people.
Definitely for some people, they did not like it.
So yeah, let's. So this was kind of. Let me pull it up here. I thought this was very funny. And then, of course, for those that didn't see the video, maybe you can all find Sam's post on Twitter or Hammel's as well. You know, like whatever.
Can link it
So,
real quick.
the quote tweet here was, "The ecosystem was polluted with Python," and that's in reference to a quote that Abhi says in the video itself. I'm not going to play the whole video, but
Abhi.
I think we should become a book publishing company.
Nah.
I'm from, and after with React developer build agent.
Different. We were trying to build an agent for a different type of idea, and we just found that the whole ecosystem was polluted with Python.
So that's the reference there for those of you that didn't see the video, but go watch it. You know, leave us a comment.
Polluted with Python.
Share. But the funny thing is, that's actually, you know, partially the reason we created Mastra is that it's not that, like, I used to write some Python code. Like, I think we all probably wrote Python. I really just didn't want to go back to writing more Python. I thought, like, what is the actual point? So I don't know. That was one of the reasons I think that Mastra came to exist, is that we didn't want to go back to writing Python.
Yeah. And the dev tooling sucked at the time, and so we wanted to change that as well.
Yeah, especially for us, the tooling wasn't very good.
Out of that whole video, though, people were like polluted with Python, and there are a bunch of Python maxis who are like, "Oh, these guys, they're JavaScript." It's like, yo, just chill out, dude. It's just a joke, by the way. That's another thing. It's just a joke. Like, I don't hate anybody. It's just a joke. Like, but people go on the offensive and stuff, and
yeah.
I mean, I knew what I was getting myself into, so I don't really care. But
yeah, I mean, sometimes you say something because you know it's going to get a reaction from some people, but ultimately it's just to kind of like have, you know, you should be able to poke fun at each other a little bit, right? Like us TypeScript guys should be able to poke fun at the Python guys, and they can poke fun back too, right? You know?
Yeah, it's all love.
It's
Maybe.
it should be. It should be. We should be able to have some fun here. So yeah, it wasn't, you know, we don't hate Python, but you know, we are going to poke fun at Python a little bit.
Yeah. I guess, you know, they say talk shit, get hit. So that's
yeah,
it is.
Hopefully not. So one more thing before we bring on our first guest, and then maybe some of the other stuff we can pull out at the end. I found this interesting post from Simon Willison, who I think, you know, kind of came up with vibe coding, right? And is now talking about vibe engineering. So the difference between vibe coding and vibe engineering is that, you know, vibe engineering is a little bit more sophisticated, has a little bit more structure. It's done maybe by an engineer in a certain way to produce a certain result. So there's a whole blog post on what Simon Willison defines as vibe engineering. So we're not going to go through all that because we do have a tight schedule, but what's your opinion, Abhi? Is this one going to stick? Is this one going to stick like vibe coding did?
I don't think so. Well, okay, here's the problem. Like anytime there's a new term, people are going to try to make money off of it. So I assume that there will be companies that will get on the vibe engineering, like your product is a vibe engineering stack or something like that. But I just don't understand how this is different than vibe coding, or like, maybe vibe coding's played out, so you need to have a different term or something. So I'm not sure, but he does, he has produced a lot of industry terms, so maybe that will stick based on who the author is. But if we said vibe engineering, it definitely wouldn't have a chance of sticking.
Yeah, I mostly agree with that. I think vibe coding kind of had a moment, and now maybe this will have a moment, but it's not going to be the same. I do think there is a difference. When people say vibe coding, it almost makes me feel like they're just letting the LLM write all the code without any intervention, which I don't think is actually the case. I think this is just arguing that maybe there needs to be a term for LLM enhanced engineering, and rather than just like letting the LLM run. But yeah, I think it was a fun read. I would recommend giving it a read. I don't know if it's going to stick. I kind of doubt it, but we will see. We'll be
Vibe
here.
coding is for noobs, and vibe engineering is for seasoned vets, right? But like, I don't know what. Even internally, when we vibe stuff, we don't say the coding or engineering part. We just said, "Oh yeah, I vibed this real quick," because I'm already an engineer. I don't need to explain what I'm doing.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, you're still putting your name behind it. I guess that's maybe the difference of using some of these vibe coding platforms where you're shipping prototypes really quickly, and maybe you do make some of them get into production. But if you're on an actual team and you're using an LLM to help you write code, ultimately you're still responsible for that code being written at some level. So your name's on it. So I don't think it really matters.
Yeah, same.
Anyways, fun aside. And with that, we are going to bring on our first guest. So we have Ismail from Superagent.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Hey guys, how are you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Thank you for having me on. Big fan of Mastra, of course. As a OG agent builder myself, I definitely, like the TypeScript first approach to things. So happy to be on. Happy to chat with you guys.
Yeah, same here. I really love the work y'all are doing, because oftentimes, and I guess actually maybe I should stop and let you introduce yourself and what your company does, and then I'll fanboy after that.
Yeah, so I'm Ismail. I'm the CTO of Superagent, CTO and co-founder. Superagent is basically small language models that defend your AI agents from prompt injections, jailbreaks, leaking sensitive data, all of that nasty stuff that can happen when you connect an LLM to your data sources and want to keep that LLM like safe, secure, and yeah, so that's what we do. Our core thesis is like, as code, the amount of code that is going to be generated, the amount of apps that are going to be generated by AI is going to skyrocket. That's obvious for everyone, right? The current like security solutions, the legacy security solutions for those kind of apps needs to change. So the reason for that is that we're going from a very deterministic like way of building products to a more probabilistic way, and that opens up a whole can of worms when it comes to security issues. As you mentioned Simon earlier in the stream, he has a bunch of posts on just jailbreaks that he does, right? So that's a great example of what we are trying to, help builders achieve, like a security for their AI agent, basically.
So like we talked to a bunch of customers that are getting close to production with their AI agents, and they ask us like, what is like one? Most of them want a silver bullet for security, right?
Hmm.
They want something they can install, but they don't want to do the work, let's say, to
Hmm.
cover everything. Maybe that's because old security was just having a badge on your website, let's just say. But
Right.
nowadays, you got to do a bunch of shit. So, like, what would
Right.
be the minimal thing a user has to do to start becoming secure?
I think the minimum thing you need to do is to, try to separate out different data sources from different agents. Try to compartmentalize your whole workflow. And depending on what you're trying to build, a lot of people are building coding agents now that run async, workflows in the background. I think the first thing that's important there is, sandbox that environment, make sure that it only has access to stuff that it absolutely needs access to, and make sure to cover observability so that you have insights into what is going on. I think that is the most important part for somebody that's just starting off. So I would say like sandboxing is super important. I would say compartmentalizing your app is super important when it comes to security in general.
Hmm. And then what's the next level from there?
I think the next level is, what we've seen, like the reason why we built Superagent is quite fascinating. We were building something completely different. Basically, we were doing like a RAG app for compliance teams. So they could pull in all of their compliance stuff and then they could ask questions, right? So we got this enterprise deal. And the CIO was wanted to implement it, and then we got to all of the nitty-gritty compliance details. And in Europe, where we are based right now, AI regulation is much harder to pass by than in the US. So we had a lot of stuff that we needed to do. We needed to get accredited, audited, a bunch of stuff. And then when we had all of the stuff, the SOC 2, everything was in place, we started getting questions about like the AI agents themselves, stuff that's not covered by regular like SOC 2, data trust centers, right? So that's where we thought that the idea is to help founders close more business by giving their customers, their users, transparency into what these agents can do, what models they run on, are they training on your data, what tools do they have access to, how are they connected to your tools, is this thing secure or not? So I think that's the next step, being very transparent, and adding these guardrails that prevent from prompt injections or leaking data. That would be like the next step, I think, for when you're out there trying to close a customer. That will be the thing that the CIO will say yes or no to.
Yeah, there are a lot of security frameworks that are coming out, especially in America. Like the NIST has one, which is like you know, manage whatever, observe whatever, like all the 4-step shit. But then there's other ones too that I guess will all coalesce into some certification that you could put on your company, right? But then I guess each of those building blocks are still what you described. You still have to do the work in each of those steps, right?
Yeah, you have to do the work, and the sad part with security is that you only care, usually like teams that we talk to, they only care about security when they're trying to close a deal.
Yeah.
That's really like, that's why they are doing it. They're not doing it just for security's sake. They don't care about security. They just want to close the next deal. They just want to grow, like everybody, like us, like you guys, right?
Yeah.
So security becomes this thing that you do when you need to show someone something, right? Hey, we got this thing, and that's fine. That's all great. Our idea is like, we have to understand what people, why people want security, and then build something that makes it super simple for them to get, you know, a high level of guardrails, a high baseline implemented in 3 to 4 minutes. That's like what we're trying to do. So we have a very simple SDK. It runs both in TypeScript and Python for you guys that still love Python, right?
Yeah, I can't
and you
imagine
can
there's a lot of Python people listening, but if there are, it's good to know that they're supported.
exactly. And you can just plug it in like, you know, like Mastra or you know, we did a example with your input processors, just works out of the box. It's a model that keeps your stuff safe, you know. And so I think that it is, as you say, something that you need to do continuously, but I don't think people do. I think they do it once or twice a year when the SOC 2 review is, you know, coming, and that's about it. So we're trying to like build something that people, you know, we don't want to like, you know, put a bunch of burden on people. They don't need that. They just need something that actually works with the way that they want to work with security. So we're trying to build something like that.
Yeah, should we break down how like different components of Superagent? Because from
let's do it.
Like what I love about Superagent is it exactly what you're saying. It like doesn't make it like a burden. It makes it like, because it's a really easy integration, then you don't have to think about it that much, right? You just do it, and then you can expand it over time. But yeah, the floor is yours. Like, let's get into Superagent.
I'm gonna share my screen. Like, I'm just gonna show you the easiest way to get started. You know, what you do is that you go to like superagent.sh, you create an API key, and then inside of your app, you install the Superagent SDK, and then you spin up a client, and then you can decide what type of security you want. So here we have two different examples. We have something that we call guard, which basically helps or keeps your agent safe from prompt injections, backdoors, and that kind of thing. And then we have another method called redact, which basically takes a string, whatever string. It might be something that's generated by an AI, might be a human generated string as well. And then you can basically pass in the rules you want. You know, I want to get rid of PII, PHI, and, you know, secrets and API keys. So you can configure that very easily in this SDK and then just run it. And then you get a purified version back, basically, as you see in the example down here. So it's super simple to get started. It's completely open source. It hooks into all like agent frameworks that are worth mentioning at this point. You know, it hooks up to your coding agent, you know, AI SDKs that are out there, or other gateways that you might be using. So it's super simple to get started with. So you can just spin up the SDK. If you're like a power user and want to run a full proxy on all of your AI, you know, traffic, you can do that as well. So we have a proxy endpoint that you can just connect and use instead of your OpenAI like API-based URL, and you know, get that rolling pretty quickly as well. And all of that is basically powered by a bunch of small language models that we have trained, what we call reinforcement fine-tuning, which is a you know, different from the classical like fine-tuning that people do. And we've trained these models to be highly effective in stopping these kind of attacks. And since the models are really small, you can train them almost in real time. That means that we can, you know, update the model's weights every day. So if new attacks appear, we can train for those attacks, and we can make sure that those weights are pushed to our users, you know, more or less in real time. Which is a huge thing, I think, in security. It's like the good old days when you have the McAfee like badge. I don't know if you guys remember that, but you know,
Yep.
if that badge isn't updated for 2 years, that badge doesn't mean anything, right?
Yeah.
So we're trying to keep it like real time as much as possible. And that's basically our core. So we do the models, and then we try to, you know, provide integration points which make sense for users.
And
Makes a lot of sense.
yeah, and we did have a question from the chat, which I think you kind of already answered, but I'm going to state it anyways. So Ruben did ask, how is this different than prompt engineering and input sanitation? And I think you kind of got into it a little bit around it's more real time, right? That the techniques that you use today might need to change as new exploits come out. But is there more? Is there more to it than that?
So I think that 99% of agents have their security baked into the prompt, the system prompt. So the system prompt becomes like the security layer for the whole agent. The problem is that these attacks are so, devious in the sense that they can implant. As soon as they reach your model, it's too late. So if an attack reaches the endpoint where you're running your OpenAI agent, it's already too late. If that model sees those tokens, there are a bunch of studies around how they internalize data. Maybe it gets saved to your memory bank that you have, separately, and then they can exploit it later on. So what we're trying to do, and I think what you need to do, and I think what we also saw from OpenAI having the same direction with their agent builder, is that you need models that are outside, that act like outside of the main agent model that you have. Something that, you can pollute, but doesn't actually pollute the agent, right? So it's like a filter or a condom, if you will, for your AI agent. And I think that's the way the entire industry handles safety right now. And I think that's a good approach. They call it the dual model setup. So you have one main model, and then you have safety models and a bunch of different other smaller models that work around that agent.
Practice safe agents,
Exactly.
SLM,
That's exactly right.
SLM architectures, I feel, are not necessarily like mainstream right now, but they are used for safety or even object generation and like these smaller tasks. And I just think that's going to put that on my bingo card for 2026, that SLMs will take off more. I think people need to realize how you can leverage them, and not everyone knows how to train them either. So that might be a very interesting space.
And I think the problem is that there are a bunch of awesome small language models out there that are open source and released. The problem is that if you learn how to fine tune them, which is an art in itself, because the data you would need to fine tune for a specific task, it's pretty hard to generate that data, right?
Yeah.
So that's where your mode is for your model, really. I think that if you're able to train it, the problem then becomes, where do I run it? Yeah. Like, that's a problem as well. Running these fine-tuned models isn't as straightforward as one might think. So I don't think that I think that the whole, not only small language models, but also the whole fine-tuning ecosystem will blossom the coming years, because people would need to train these models for different tasks and run them on some data center.
100%.
And as a follow-up, Ruben asks, so the input goes through Superagent before even reaching the agent we build in Mastra?
Correct. So if you add the guardrail, if you add that JavaScript, TypeScript snippet, what it does is that the prompt or the content, it might be a tool call, it might be, a function call, it might be an input prompt, it might be any type of input output. You pass it through Superagent. It will basically give you back, depending on what method you use, is this thing secure? Why isn't it secure? What security rules does it break? And if that happens, then you can trigger some other workflow in your app. And if it's safe, you just pass it on to your model. So it goes through our model first. And again, I have to mention, the models are open source. Everything is on Hugging Face. The data set is on Hugging Face. The different model sizes and weights are on Hugging Face. So if you don't trust us, you can just spin up your own and run it wherever you want, really.
That's awesome.
That's cool.
Yeah, super cool.
Thank you.
And I'm glad you guys integrate with us. That's dope.
Yeah. And I think, one thing that's missing in this whole AI agent framework thing is I think one thing that you've done really well is the hooks that you have on inputs, outputs, tools and all of that. I think that's a huge thing. And I think that more people will leverage those hooks as these agents diffuse into organizations all over the world. I think that's something that I really like with Mastra. The whole it feels like a concept more than a framework.
Yeah.
I appreciate that more than, because frameworks come and go, but concepts, they stick around for more time and become more pervasive in workflows and stuff like that. So yeah, I really enjoy Mastra and happy to work with that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
We have some questions as well.
Some
Maybe
good ones here.
Really good ones.
Yeah.
Let's do this latency one. So is there a noticeable latency with additional layers here?
Of course. So there is latency because you put, a model in front of your original model. And that's also a challenge that we have. And that's also a reason why we use small language models, because we can, quantize them down to very small, effective models that run on custom kernels or whatever type of hosting that you would want for your, endpoint. So on our cloud, we run it on Fireworks. So we have their, a latency. So it's really fast and adds around, I would say, depending on the size of the input and the size of the output as well, somewhere between 100 to 200, 300 milliseconds on really large objects or whatever you might want to redact or guard against. So there is latency, and I'm hoping that we will see even stronger, smaller models that will run in the edge without any GPUs that are super fast. I think that day will come, and then latency won't be that big of an issue.
Awesome. And then I think our last one here. What are the model sizes used in production, and what trade-offs did you make in choosing that scale?
So the one we run in prod is a 20 billion parameter model. And the reason why we chose that and not a smaller model, because we used, a 270 million parameter model, we used a 3 billion parameter model. And the reason is that the latency and, the chart for latency and accuracy on the task that we trained for, had a sweet spot at that 20 billion parameter model. Also, we do reinforcement fine tuning. So we incorporate chain of thought and a bunch of that kind of stuff. And that's still not there yet with these super small models, that they reason well. And I'm hoping that that's something that will change soon. I'm hoping the next Gemma that gets released, or the next Phi that gets released, will have, baked in strong reasoning chain of thought capabilities. But 20 billion, I would say, is a good model. I think you can run most workflows on a 20 billion parameter model. The thing where it gets, tough is when you have these broad tasks like deep research or something like that, then you might want something bigger. But for regular, these kind of tasks, security tasks or other classification tasks, I think that a 20 billion parameter model, or even down to 7 billion parameter, would be quite sufficient.
Awesome. And last comment here from this dude. Great work.
Nice.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, brother. Yeah. We think it will be, we think that we can help other founders out to close more deals and get secure.
Yeah, I'm super bullish on your product, for sure.
Thank you.
I think that's all the time we have today. But if you ever want to come back, if there's any new developments, you're always welcome.
Of course. Thank you guys for having me.
Of course.
Thank
anytime.
you guys for having me.
Yeah.
Have a good day.
See you, Ismail.
Yeah. Thanks
See
for coming
you guys.
on.
Thank you.
All right.
Cool.
That was sick, dude. That was sick.
That was some good questions. And so thanks, audience. This is interactive. So please ask questions. We will do our best to answer them. And it makes for more engaging show, because obviously we're okay at asking questions, but it's nice to have some help.
Y'all have been asking some great questions too.
Yeah.
Before we bring the next guest on, I'm just thinking, when we did input processors, we made our own PII detection, more as a reference than anything. But we were using, let's call it, the big models. So it does add significant latency. And we always thought, oh, if we had SLMs, we would use them, but we don't. But Superagent does. So I highly recommend checking them out. They have a nice integration with us. And it's probably like the right way to do our PII detector than what we're doing. Maybe it's fast.
I think there's, it's one of those things. If you want to get some basic level protection, you could pull our stuff off the shelf. It's probably going to help, but it's kind of like, what Ismail said. It's not, there are new threats that come out. It's not going to be necessarily kept up to date or catch everything. If it's static, then eventually people will just find a way around that specific guardrail, right? So there is something around using a model and using a service that is continually being updated, and especially when things are changing. Maybe someday it becomes less, then the threats become more known, and so maybe static can work a little bit better. I doubt it, but maybe. Maybe. But now things are changing so frequently. I think you kind of want something that's kind of living and breathing a little bit in front of, especially if you're dealing with things that are heavy in compliance or regulation, and you need that extra layer of security or peace of mind.
Also liked how he said that, in the case of this, like, we introduced a concept, right? Like the input processor. Like, we don't necessarily have to be on the hook for everything that an input processor could do. Our job was to introduce the concept, so there should be other companies or products that can hook into Mastra at any point and use the concept to do actual production level shit. So that was dope.
Yeah. And it's almost like we planned that.
Almost. Or we dumb lucked our way into it.
Sometimes it's a mix of both.
Yeah.
All right. We're going to bring on our next guest. So this is, we've been wanting to get someone from Ragie on for a long time, because we're close with the people over there. And so today we finally got them. So we got Matt from Ragie coming on, and we're going to talk about what Ragie is and what they do. So welcome, Matt.
Matt.
Hello. Good to meet you guys.
Yeah, good to meet you too.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah. So I know that we've done some stuff, done some events together in the past. Unfortunately, I'm on the East Coast. I wasn't able to attend, but I heard they went pretty well.
Yeah. It's always fun throwing or drinking some beers and eating some pizza with the Ragie crew.
Yeah, especially Bob.
Yeah. Bob's fun to hang out with for sure.
Bob and I go way back, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think this is probably a good time. Maybe a quick introduction to yourself, and then can you tell us a little bit about Ragie? Because some of the audience probably knows, but I'm sure a lot don't.
Sure. My name is Matt Kaufman. I'm one of the founding engineers here at Ragie. And Ragie is RAG as a service for developers. I think that we, the founding team, we had built RAG a few times, probably 6 times if you counted all the founders, had done it independently. And it seems like a fairly easy, like, you put some stuff into a vector database, you create an embedding of a query, you see what matches, and you can stand up a naive RAG pretty quickly. But it turns out that to get a RAG that actually works well, takes a lot more steps. There's the extraction side. There's a chunking side. There's, as it turns out, just pure semantic search usually isn't enough. You also need to do something with maybe Elasticsearch or some flavor of keyword search to get results that semantic might not have picked up. So we just decided to build the RAG pipeline and the RAG retrieval service we wished we had, so that getting RAG into your AI app was as simple as like npm install RAG. And so that's kind of where we started and what we're still pursuing.
Yeah, that's cool. I think there's something about knowing that when regardless of kind of the documents or the content you're throwing at it, it's going to be making sensible choices for you. I know when I was starting just building RAG, I was like, chunk size, like, I don't know, like, just going to pick something. And I just picked something, right? And then I ended up, and I guess this was just like a prototype, but that was what I ended up sticking with the whole time. I never went back and reevaluated it and never questioned, like, am I getting the right level of accuracy? And then if I wanted to compare, now I have to do a ton of engineering work. So I think there is something around just having the ability to throw your content at it and know that it's going to make some sensible choices for you, but also just give you that API that you can tap into when you need it.
Yeah, I think that's actually like an interesting problem, right? You think about chunking, and you're like, okay, can we keep ideas together? Can we try not to split on sentences? And you get that all tuned for text, and then you get a table, and that table's large and it doesn't fit in a single embedding. So how do you maintain the context of that table when it's split across multiple embeddings? So we've got like a specialized table chunker. We've got specialized data chunkers. If something was an image, we try and chunk it with a caption if we can find a caption. So there's a lot of like, you can go really deep on all these problems. And like we want to be the AI team for you that can just 100% focus on those problems, so you can focus on, you know, what your product does.
Like a year ago when we met Bob the first time, we weren't even working on Mastra. And I think it was like the day after Sachs was like on his All In podcast that mentioned you guys. And I think that's a long time ago. It feels like a long ass time ago now.
It's like 15 months probably.
Yeah.
It feels like ancient history now. I actually was responsible for getting like the website up just in like the nick of time to have like a one up to learn more. And I was like, we'll get a few email addresses, and we got hundreds.
Yeah,
So,
a lot.
Yeah.
And that was also during a time where, like, let's say RAG was the topic at hand for the AI community. And then we had the RAG is dead shit. And then we had RAG is not dead. Then we had the million context window event. And now we have context engineering. As someone who's worked in RAG since, let's say, the beginning, right? How do you feel about all these things coming and flowing, especially if your company is called Ragie?
I think that if you squint, they're all the same thing, right? It's all about getting the right context into the window. You may have a million token context window, but you want to pay the money cost and latency cost for those million tokens. And then there's a lot of studies that are showing that like more is not better. There's like one that was called Lost in the Middle, where tokens in the middle of the context were basically ignored. Stuff at the beginning, at the end, it would pay attention to. A lot of the metrics out there are kind of like needle in a haystack, right? Like in this million tokens, can we find this one string? And they do pretty good at that. But ask it to reason or make decisions or somehow have attention over those million tokens, and you see much poorer results. I think the term that's coming around now is context rot. The more context you have, the more opportunities you have to confuse the LLM.
Yeah, definitely. So like then from Raggie's perspective, retrieval and like the connectors and all that stuff is all still principled in this new term, context engineering. Like, are people still considering, like, are y'all like kind of converting to like, oh, Ragie, we can help you with context engineering, or is it still like a RAG thing?
I think in my mind, they're the same thing. It's retrieval augmented generation. Are we going to do a retrieval to augment the generation, to ground the generation as well in you know, my version of the truth, right? Like my company's version of the truth. And whether you label it RAG or whether it's a retrieval tool that an LLM, a model, can choose to use, or it's an MCP tool, we still want to be how the model gets the context it needs to have accurate results.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think Raggie's also like expanded its feature set since, you know, a year ago. Do you want to walk through the audience here? Like, what are the coolest things about Ragie?
Sure. We had a big push, I would say 6 months or so ago, to really nail multimodal. So you can send us audio files, you can send us audio video files, and we'll like normalize that media so that you can even like stream it off of our platform. So let's say that you have like a 2-hour podcast and a retrieval hits something interesting at say an hour and 15 minutes in. When we give you that chunk, we'll also give you a streaming link that'll let you stream it from that particular timestamp. So you could build like really rich user experiences where searching over thousands and thousands of hours of audio or audio video, And it was kind of interesting to figure out how to do that in, especially with the video side, how to sort of marry the transcription to the like textual description of the video. So we like transcribe all the audio. We also send the frames of the video for multimodal descriptions. We then kind of like group those into 15-second chunks. So again, back to the chunking thing, you chunk video much differently than you chunk a PDF or text in a PDF. So we did a lot of cool work around that. Recently, we've been focused on MCP. So basically, our retrieve tools can be used as an MCP tool, either for like desktop style applications like Claude Code or Cursor, or we're also having some of our customers look into like plugging us in directly as MCP tools for their agents. And then another big thing that we've focused on is a search agent, a deep search agent. So we have customers that are kind of all over the map and different degrees of sophistication. And we've seen a lot of people coming from fairly complex domains like financial analysis or insurance tables or really dense, hard documents. And then they want to be able to like ask a hard, multifaceted question of these documents. And like a naive RAG just kind of breaks down there. Like if you have like 3 or 4 questions like implicitly embedded in what you're asking it, and the answer comes from maybe 3 or 4 distinct documents, like a single semantic search, even with keyword layered on there, might recall the right chunks. It might not, and it might provide 2 out of the 4 chunks you need to answer that correctly. And then, as we know, like LLMs love to be confident, so then it'll confidently answer with like a part of the picture. So we put some real effort into this deep search model that does a lot of these techniques like query decomposition. So the query will come in, we'll break it down into multiple sub questions. We'll then kind of fan those out to multiple parallel retrievals. We'll see if we answered those sub questions. If we did, we might ask more sub questions. So basically, we keep working the problem until we've got a confidence level. So we have like eval steps. So until we get a confidence level that we have the right answer from the right evidence, and then provide that along with like the steps we did and the actual like bits of evidence. So you can like link directly to like in that PDF at page 210, here's the table we're answering from.
When you have different documents, are they like stored in the same store, or is like each document has its own, let's say, collection of embeddings to search? Or is there a way that do most users search across everything? Is that what is that like the natural way for them to think, or is it like I want to search just this document and then maybe I'll search these other ones? Or
yeah. So it's very use case dependent, right? So we have like different constructs. Like we have the idea of a partition, which is like a hard logical separation. So a lot of our customers are actually like SaaS companies themselves and multi-tenant. So they'll like use a partition to like segregate their users. And then later on top of that, we have a metadata construct. So you can like kind of tag each document with whatever your whatever can enable your business rules. So maybe it's a group ID, maybe it's a user ID, maybe it's a topic. So then customers will will sometimes hard code their metadata filters, or they'll have like a UI to build it. And we're even starting to see people generate their filters on the fly. So you can kind of provide an LLM a JSON schema of like what the metadata filter parameters they can play with are, and then kind of dynamically generate that scoping.
that's cool. And for the search agent, that is like all that, is that available through the MCP server? Like, could I use that as a tool?
It is not wired up into MCP yet. We're definitely talking about that right now. We just have retrieval. There's a little bit of a latency mismatch. I think like this is closer to like deep research where it can take a couple minutes, and I think most like MCP calling is expecting like a tighter loop than that. So
Yeah.
we're working through that right now, but we need to sort of like maybe create a very fast version of it that we can add as an MCP tool.
Yeah, that'd be cool to just, have access to that search agent, because like a lot of people probably don't want to do the effort to do exactly what you guys did in the search agent.
Yeah, it was it's a lot of work to build an agent that's reliable.
Yeah.
And figuring out all the various failure modes that models have and when they can be sort of like, I think too confident maybe is the word.
You are absolutely right.
Yeah, you are right. And I've seen that more and more with some of our users that we spend quite a bit of time talking to, is that they, especially with larger organizations, they have all this data and it comes across as, PDFs and Word docs and videos and audio and Slack messages or whatever, right? And having the ability to have it and not just like search it, but have something intelligently search over it, I think is a big unlock for a lot of these larger organizations. I mean, some of them are building themselves, as you'd expect, right? Of course. But I do think having something that they can, integrate much more easily is a big win for some of these companies.
I wish they wouldn't build it themselves though, because they're gonna have to go through this whole discovery of like what you actually need to do to like graduate into having good RAG.
They'll just build their own RAG team. It's like, do you want to build a RAG team or do you want to buy one?
Yeah.
It's like, that's what you kind of,
The classic dilemma.
Yeah, and of course there's use cases for both probably, but sometimes it's nice to say like, hey, let's just bring in the experts. And
They're worried about insertions. Like they think it won't scale, like inserting all the data, and then they worry about retrieval, obviously. And for some reason, they think they can do it. More power to them. But I'm sure they'll be giving you a call, Matt, once they can.
Yeah, I mean, when you have your 10-page PDF and you run it through whatever PyPDF setup you have, and it's a happy case, it'll probably work well. We have people show up with like 3,000 page PDFs, and they expect that to get processed in a reasonable amount of time. So we actually we've made a lot of investment just in that stuff, like sending stuff through like queues, breaking up into smaller pieces, seeing how far we can push parallelizing that sort of work. So like if you send us a 3,000 page PDF, we're breaking that up into 3,000 separate jobs and like processing one page at a time to try and get it completed in a reasonable amount of time. That wasn't like, it's not like brain surgery, but it's the kind of, like plumbing work that takes actual time, and you gotta get all your monitoring right. You got to keep an eye on all your queues, and yeah, it's real work there.
Yeah. We have some questions from the audience. So let's start with this one. How do you handle data updates, document edits? Do you re-index?
We do. We do re-index. So if you send us a new version of the file, we're going to remove the last one from our indexes, re-extract it and put it back there. We've talked about like, can we be more intelligent to just figure out what chunks have changed, maybe have like a hash of like the chunk, but we haven't implemented that yet. So right now it is get rid of the old one, put the new one in.
For sure. And here's a good one. In what kind of use cases do you think Ragie works best when combined with Mastra?
Probably anytime you need Mastra to answer questions grounded in your data or your files.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen people use it as basically like a tool for their agent, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like they build a Mastra agent, they set up Ragie, and they use a tool to basically allow their agents to search their documents, kind of like your deep search agent that you've built, but more specifically to whatever agent that they're building that fits their organizational needs. So that's where I've seen it.
Yeah.
Some of our customers play around with it and really kind of go deep into how do I get this agent to search across my data, right? My organizational data.
And Ragie has a TypeScript SDK, y'all, so you could just use it, and it just works. TM.
Yeah. Just create some tools. That is one of the things. Like if it has an SDK, just spin up a couple tools, give it to the agent, and everything should just work. It should just wire together really nicely. That's nice when there's just like an npm package you can download and it just works.
Yeah.
I think that's how I've really from the beginning. I wanted something that was like npm install rag, so that folks can get a shortcut, be able to start shipping their AI features without having to do all the plumbing work around pulling documents apart and sticking them in indexes.
Post this. This is the link to the TypeScript docs. If you want to use Ragie, have fun. There's a bunch of stuff you could do with it. What about re-ranking? Is that built into Ragie?
Yeah, we have a re-ranker built in. It's an optional parameter on our retrieval. So there's a classic trade-off there of like latency versus quality. So probably tack on maybe 500 milliseconds to worst case a second to your call. Mm. But if you want to make sure that the chunks you're getting aren't just semantically similar, but actually do address the query, it's an important feature.
For sure. Awesome. Yeah. All right. Should we take one more question, Shane? What do you want? What should we do?
Yeah, sure. And Matt, did you have a demo you wanted to show? I don't know if you.
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah. I can do a demo. So hold on one second. Let me figure out screen sharing in here.
Yeah, you pull that up. I think one of the challenges with a service like this is always figuring out, like, you need to provide the right dials for your users to turn. And I feel like that's something that I know, like, I've talked to the team, and you think a lot about is like enough flexibility, but also enough hands off where you don't have to worry. And it's a constantly, I imagine maybe it differs for certain customers, but ultimately you want to provide like a very seamless experience, but enough customization where you can turn on re-ranking if you need it and do those extra things that you may not, as a user, you need the flexibility, but also like it's a challenge.
That's kind of like one of our design goals from the beginning was expose enough knobs, but not too many knobs, and make it work out of the box so you don't have to sort of go look under the hood unless you know what you're doing and you want to. So this is an app that we have called Base Chat. It's our open source chat application that we kind of use as a reference app. Like whenever we build a new feature, we tend to build it into Base Chat just to make sure the DX is there. So we have this deep search option here. So there's like different types. We can do different types of searches here. So we're going to do deep search. We're going to do it on fast just in the interest of time. And then this is a benchmark called Finance Bench. I guess I can't go to the tab, but Finance Bench is like a pretty rigorous financial data set and about 150 questions related to it. And the document store is, I think, 350 10K filings. So it's like a pretty non-trivial RAG problem. So I'll just run this one sample from there. So you kind of see the agent thinking here. It's searching. It's going to look for the American Express 2022 annual report, look for the largest liability balance sheet. And so right now it is and we'll see this in a second, but it's doing 2 or 3 different variations of that query. And it just completed it. So it ended up asking these questions that it searched for, and then it found these results. So I'm not going to like dive too much into here, but this came from one of the 10Ks. And you can see it decided it got enough information to answer. Here's the answer that it's going to be using, and then it's handing off to like a citation subagent right now to take that answer and put in the citation so that they're clickable. So yeah, there we go. That's our search agent. If you put it on harder modes, it will like do stuff like forcing a planning step in the beginning. It will decompose more questions out of your query. It will do more aggressive evaluations of subsets. Like on this fast mode, it kind of just evaluates the final answer. It allows it to search right from the beginning. But like as you adjust our effort level, we're not just like using heavier models. We're also providing different business rules for what the agent can do at any given step. And then also, just budget stuff like you can use this many tokens, you can go this many turns.
And this is this available then in your SDK or through your API?
It is. It is. So it has like a synchronous mode and a streaming mode. This is using the streaming mode. But if you go check out our SDK, it's under the responses section of our SDK, and then the model name is called Deep Search. And we kind of followed the OpenAI responses API for like the schema of these responses. So if you have a responses compatible client, we should be a drop-in. If we're not, hit me up and I can help figure it out. But so far it's worked well.
That's another pattern I keep seeing out in the wild, is building it into the responses API. So like the friction for the user is negligible, you know, to take advantage of all these powers. So like, sick.
Yeah. I you know, when we got to that part, you know, do we want to create our own protocol for these streaming and these responses? And even if we did a good job, are we going to, like, the lessons they've learned up until now, you know, we can just kind of piggyback on that rather than try and reinvent a wheel, get it wrong twice. And
yeah. Yeah, this is awesome.
Yeah, it makes me think of all the things I could hook this up to in Mastra and build an agent that has basically a sub agent that can do deep research on sets of documents. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's definitely, like, I see like that a search agent as opposed to a research agent. Like a research agent, its output is like kind of a report. The output of this is more or less a fact with evidence to support it.
Yeah.
So I think it composes well into agentic workflows where a report might be too big and heavyweight.
Yeah. And you know, if they're using the responses, if y'all are using the responses API, you could actually wire this up directly to our agent primitive, and so like it would work just the same. So that's really cool.
That's the nice thing about if it does use the responses, is just you could use this as the underlying model to an agent pretty easily.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then use it as a sub agent connected with other agents or in workflows, and you know, it's very composable. So it kind of slots in very nicely.
Yeah, and I guess this is just like one UX. You know, obviously you could put any UX on top of what you'd want. But we found that like people kind of really like to be able to poke in and see what the agent did at every step. Yeah. You know, the ChatGPT where it's very like ephemeral, like what it's working on, you can kind of click on it and see. But like showing the whole history here, we found that like it increased confidence for users that we're like, we're not hallucinating. Your documents say this. This is where we found it.
Yeah, just let's like show me proof of the work that you did, so I know I can I have the validation if I want it.
Exactly.
And for, I guess, my last question here on finance, the documents for finance chat or bench, you could either upload these documents programmatically or through the Ragie dashboard. Is that correct?
Yeah. So we have our data connectors. So usually if I'm doing like one of these RAG benchmarks or whatever, I'll just go and I'll drop them all in a folder in G Drive, and then I'll just connect that G Drive and go get a coffee and come back in a little bit and start running it. I mean, it's actually kind of like a non-trivial data set. There's like 350, 100-page PDFs. So it takes a little, you know, tens of minutes to sync that completely. And you could write some code to do it directly with the SDK or make REST calls to us, but sometimes it's easier to just throw it in a folder and do a quick authorization flow.
Yeah, I agree with that. Be way easier. Way easier.
Yeah, and one question related to that. So Ragie takes care of storing it all. Yes, right? You sync it, you store it, you do all the chunking necessary, which is really cool. I mean, I think that's interesting when people think of, okay, I have all this data and all these different systems. I can just connect it, drop it in a folder in Google Drive, or connect, you know, whatever other external systems through connectors, and then the data just gets sucked in, and now I have an API that I can search against, and that's, you know, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So much glue code involved with doing it. Like, I would just not do it personally. Like, you know.
We have a lot of glue code.
Yeah, let Raggie handle the glue. Just put shit
Yeah.
together.
Awesome.
Cool.
Well, Matt, we really appreciate you joining the show and answering some questions and hanging out with us for a bit. Anything else that you want to talk about before we move on to the next AI news segment?
No, thank you for having me. This was really fun.
Yeah, let us know when you come to the West Coast for a Raggie event so we can have beers properly.
Awesome, for sure.
Yeah. Looking forward to hopefully seeing you in person at some point. But if you do any new big things you have that come out at Raggie, feel free to come back on the show and tell us about it.
Will do. Awesome. Thanks, guys.
See you, Matt.
See you,
Bye.
Matt. All right.
I remember talking with Mohammed at one of the Raggie events we did like during YC. And it's just cool to see, and even base chat, like Bob was talking to us back then about this is what
Yeah.
we're planning on doing. And it's awesome to see it all is now reality.
Yeah, like the integrations, the
Multimodal thing. I remember Mohammed was like, I don't know if he was stressed, but he was drinking a beer. He's like, God, we got to think about multimodal images and audio. And it's like, now it's reality. So that's dope.
Yeah. It is. It's just one of those things you see at a points in time. Over the last 6+ months, probably. I would say maybe 8 months since we had our first Raggie event with them.
Yeah. Been hustling.
Yeah, they're making moves. All right. And to catch everyone up, if you are tuning in, this is AI Agents Hour with Shane and Abhi. We talked with Ismail from Superagent. We just got done talking to Matt from Raggie, and now we're moving on to talk about some AI news and probably a little drama, I'm sure we will weave into this. But yeah, let's talk some news. So first, do you want to share this context engineering workshop?
Yep. So let me get to my thing here. So if anyone's interested, this Friday, we are doing a joint workshop with Zero Entropy and Mem0. Zero Entropy is from our YC batch. They do a lot of cool things around RAG, especially now. Well, I guess it would be called context engineering. They have different, they have a re-ranker model. It's very nice. Mem0, the CEO, Taranjeet, is an absolute legend. So I just have to say that anytime I talk about Mem0. But we're just going to be talking about context engineering as a whole. From our perspective, we'll talk about our memory implementation and everything like that. But if y'all are free, come join. There's a hell of people. Yeah, that's that.
And kind of still talking a little bit about Mastra for a second. We did have this that was shared, if I can actually find it, which was just awesome. So a community member just built this, and it's like extremely accurate from me looking it over, and I thought it'd be worthwhile to share. So just to highlight, Eugene, thanks for putting this together. And if you're looking for just a high level view of kind of how Mastra works under the hood, this is a pretty good conceptual diagram of how it all of a lot of the stuff that happens underneath.
Yeah. Oh, we were really impressed when we saw it, because it's just 100% correct, actually.
Yeah, it's just accurate. It's just, and it's made to feel like simple. So if you actually read this, you'll kind of get an idea of like how things work together and how the different primitives kind of stack or are composable.
Yeah.
And yeah, so
that was awesome.
Yeah, thanks to Eugene for throwing that together.
Yeah, I believe he works at Canva, so that's tight.
And also, Vinny put together this really awesome, it's an open source recipe agent software as a service. So basically, it's a whole like software as a service platform that's a recipe agent. So it's a really good example. It has Stripe, uses S3, has agent memory. It's full stack. There's a whole 22-minute video that shows all about how it works. It's all open source. And basically, it's an entire platform agent right? That's just a recipe agent. So if you're looking for like a full stack application and seeing like how you might wire up something to deploy to users, this is a pretty cool example.
Yeah, they have a framework called WASP, and I believe they have this open SaaS template that they put on Product Hunt, which went bananas. So
Yeah.
you know, great for them, great for us, great for everybody. So it was really cool.
Yeah, so check that out. And with that, let's talk a little bit about is Lovable dying?
I'll share my screen for this one. Is Lovable dying? 1 second. So this happened, I believe, over the weekend, and it's like perfect bait. It's like the best bait that there might be. What? So yeah, so this is like web traffic. This came from Crust Data. They're from YC24 or summer 24. So they kind of compiled this image here, and having lived through this era on the x-axis, like especially us this year, we kind of see what was happening. Like definitely when we saw Lovable, it was like all the rage, and maybe it's going down or things normalize. The other ones too, like I would say Replit kind of came out of nowhere. V0 was always a thing, but very steady. Bolt came out of freaking nowhere, and then maybe it's becoming more steady. And I don't even know what this last one is. Emergent, which I still don't know what that is. But
I don't know either.
what struck this was this other. This one is also bait, I guess. But these are some YC companies that are like lovable for X. So like you have Lovable for non-tech, Lovable for internal projects. And then what really got people like, what is funny and what really got people going was, what is Lovable for software engineers? Isn't that just Lovable? And so as you can see, like the internet blew up, and so then this led to once again this. And I guess it's just bait for everyone to have some opinion or think about it. But I guess what's everyone else's opinion?
So I think that original diagram was mostly like search traffic, I'm guessing, right? Like what is it? It must be search traffic. So I could see search traffic, spiking because it was such a hot moment, right? And they kind of had this incredible just lift off. And then I could see it coming down. There was some kind of like follow up, and maybe you can find the follow up that just shows the chart that's going up. And I think that's the revenue. But then I also heard someone else say, "Is that your churn?" Because it was like joking, it's like, because these tools, I do think that there is inevitably going to be some churn with these new tools, right? It doesn't solve everything. It solves a lot of things, and you can get to prototype. And for certain things, because I know a few people personally that in this case have used Lovable, but others that have used Replit, and you can actually get things into production as well. It just kind of depends on what you're building. So, we've used Lovable in the past. We obviously use Replit a ton, but I thought this was a good, So one says like the web traffic data is incorrect, and then looking at users who decide to pay.
Yeah.
So
and here is the interest over time. So, I mean, I guess it's like web traffic is not necessarily the way to look at this. I agree. But then like vibe coding as a concept and all the products are, I guess, getting less searches. So that's just interesting. It's all to bait us, though. Really, it is just to bait us into thinking like, like, I don't know. Are you baited at all? I'm baited to be like, oh, okay, vibe coding is X or vibe coding is Y. We also have this vibe engineering shit we talked at the top of the podcast today. Like, it's just, I don't know. I just feel it feels very icky.
People need things to talk about, and in this industry, they're going to find they find contentious topics and get people on either side to argue, and that's part of the cringe, but also maybe part of the fun for some people. That's why they pay attention to things on all the drama on X or wherever else, other social channels that it lives on. But I do think, their vibe coding platforms had an extreme popularity boost. And then I think there's probably some sense of like normalization of like, okay, what can I actually accomplish? And there are real things you can accomplish.
Totally.
And yeah, I mean, I think we should just leave it at that. These platforms are hugely popular. They're still like that's not going away. I could see a case to be made where maybe their growth slows a little bit because there's only so many people that want to build apps at this moment in time. But
who benefits the most from this slander? Think about it like that. Who benefits the most? Their logo is a butthole, so those are the people who like benefit the most from this type of stuff. So they have their own CLIs, SDKs. They don't want these products to have popularity.
They want you to use their agents to build
butthole
agents. They want
version.
you to use their CLIs. They want you to use their tools. Yeah, I mean
Yeah.
that's probably very likely the case. But again, they benefit on both sides. Even if you don't use them, you're still using their models, or maybe using their models, depending on who you're using. So it's like they don't want them to win, but also if they win, they still win. So
yeah, but they want them to win first.
They'd rather win first, but at least
they want butthole dominance.
They're guaranteed to probably win second for sure.
Yeah.
All right, so this has been kind of a hot topic, and I don't think we'll have time to read the entire thing, but this idea, and I've seen some posts about it after the fact, but it's Agents 2.0, from shallow loops to deep agents. So it's basically arguing that, it's kind of been a shift. Agents, the whole idea like building agents has been a shift from kind of simple agents that call tools in like a shallow loop, right? To this idea, or more of an architecture on deep agent, where there's an explicit planning step. There's maybe some delegation to subagents. You have persistent memory. And then obviously, context engineering. So that's kind of the tenets of this deep agent. So the idea is it's a little bit more of a complex architectural diagram around agents. I mean, I don't think it's drastically different. Like, I don't know. But I do think there is some distinctions between kind of like the way that a lot of people think about agents in this. What are your thoughts?
I mean, we've been Agent 2.0 when there was an Agent 1.0. I don't think I ever thought of agents other than this 2.0 diagram. We have a primitive for it too called networks. And even if you weren't using a network, you essentially have this going on, at least in Mastra. So
yeah,
nothing new to me, but I understand where they're coming from, especially if Simon Willison said that agents are just tools, loop, and a goal. That does make it seem very shallow. So building on that definition, then I guess we have this other one.
Yeah, but I think it's, it can be confusing to people, because if you look at, kind of how, the early like frameworks, right? You had LangChain, which was just like a chain of LLM prompts. Like that was the whole idea, right? It was just that's what it's called, a chain, right? Like string a couple together. And then you had people like Crew AI, and then OpenAI had Swarms or whatever, right? Which is just, and there was some others that are just like, no, this is just a bunch of agents that talk to each other and good luck. And then obviously like it coalesced to the middle, right? Which is, and we're going to talk about this, the idea of, okay, maybe some things need to be predefined workflows. So you had, LangGraph, you had Mastra workflows, Crew and announced, I think they have flows or whatever at one point. So it's this idea of, okay, you need some more control. And now as the models have continued to get better, it's like, well, okay, you still need some level of control, but maybe you can delegate certain things to subagents. But I do think there are also some frameworks or SDKs that really were just LLM with tool calling, and that was their version of agents, right? And so if you're coming from that, maybe this level of sophistication is new, or is like, a little bit more technically challenging. We've kind of been working on it for quite a while, so it doesn't seem new to us, but I do think to many people, if you think about this, and goes back to, and we talked about this, I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago, kind of Swix's talk at AI Engineer Paris, right? About the operating system, the LLM operating system, which we said, that's basically looks a lot like a Mastra system diagram, because there are a lot of components to building more complex agents that you may need, right? So
Yeah,
I don't know. That's my take.
I'm an Agent 2.0 supporter, I suppose. But this does conflict with Cognition's anti multi-agent system, right? So, at some point it gets confusing, y'all. Like, 1 week we're anti multi-agents, another week we're now into deep agents, which is also a stupid name, but whatever.
I will get on that bandwagon. Deep agent's a terrible name.
Yeah, because it's the antithesis of shallow agents. Like, I mean, that was a dumb name too, to be honest. But
yeah. I mean, so concept. I'm behind the concept. The naming. Come on, we need better names.
Dude, we should before they name stuff, we should all just get in as like a circle and brainstorm the names before they become.
I mean, some of these decisions we're going to be stuck with for months.
Yeah.
So let's think about these things.
And then our customers are like, "Hey, do you guys support deep agents?" And we're like, "Man, what the fuck is a deep agent?"
And like yes, here's how you can do it very easily in a few lines of code. And they're like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah. Do you support ambient agents, deep agents, shallow agents? Yes. That's just the answer is yes. I don't know.
But yeah, I mean, I do think that some of these terms have a tendency to stick, and when people don't, when they're not, you can't stay on top of everything. So you pick up on some of these terms, and then it makes sense, and so now you're going to use that term. But unfortunately, then whoever has sometimes the loudest voice or an interesting idea at an interesting point in time can come up with a term that we're stuck with for a while.
Yeah. What do y'all think? You think deep agents is a whack name? Put it in the chat if you do. If you don't, have a good answer for why it's not.
Yeah, and I think this is probably a good transition because we were just talking about how we got from swarms of, from chains to swarms to workflows. There's been a ton of workflows related just releases and announcements in the last week. Obviously, the big one, we talked about this last week, was OpenAI's Agent Builder, which is basically just a drag and drop workflow tool, right?
Yep.
And we also talked about 11 Labs last week. I think it just announced just before our show, basically just before OpenAI announced their Agent Builder, is 11 Labs has their own workflow builder, more towards voice agents, of course, but they announced that, and it's kind of like a drag and drop builder. Then we had this, our friends over at Vercel did announce they have AI elements for visual workflow builders. So building agents visually is a cute idea, but only if you can eject a code. I agree with that. Use multiple models and agents and remain platform agnostic. So, AI SDK or Vercel is kind of in the mix, at least. They're shipping tools to make it easier to build workflows. So that's definitely a step in that direction. We then had another, this is, and I don't even like to show this because it's a tease. They didn't actually announce anything yet, but I thought it was kind of similar. So Firecrawl is announcing an agent builder, a visual N8N style workflow builder for AI agents. So connecting Firecrawl, Dev, LLMs, logic nodes, and MCPs. So you have a visual builder. And then to top it all off, and probably my favorite of the group, I don't have the link here, actually. Do you have the link to Khaled's?
Give me 1 second.
So to tee it up, someone in the Mastra community, and of course it's still probably not production ready, but it's not perfect, but someone in the Mastra community basically just built a visual builder for Mastra, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, right here. And they have the UI, so you can drop an agent, and then you can connect some stuff. So pretty cool. It takes all of our primitives. But yeah. So then people are asking us when agent builder for Mastra, and it's like, yeah, we'll do one probably.
Yeah. And couple comments here that I think make a lot of sense. These are more so building workflows and not actual agents. And then workflows seem something new today, which is funny because workflows have been around for many, many years, right? And we've
I
had
have
drag
a
and drop
fucking
builder.
gripe with this shit, dude. When we got into YC, we were like, people were like, "Oh, dude, I'm AGI pilled. Agents will do everything. The LLM is my workflow. Yada yada yada." Okay, which is fine. You know, that was a belief. We were like, "Nah, workflows are needed because you can't trust this shit 100%." Many months go by. Now it's like a huge discourse now on Twitter about workflows versus agents. Once again, we've been talking about this for a while, and it still seems we cannot agree. Still, after all many months, we cannot agree that workflows have their purpose, agents have their purpose. But now it's even more confusing because an agent builder is building a workflow, where LLM may be a step, right? And then now it's just more confusing to people, I think. You know, fucking sucks.
Yeah. I mean, we have so Alex on the Mastra team put together a workflows versus agents video, which is pretty cool, on our YouTube channel. So if you go to our YouTube channel, if you want to get our take, or at least Alex's take, which I agree with, pretty wholeheartenistically. Yeah, there's a place for both, right? It's like, where do you want more control? If you can make something a workflow, make something a workflow. If you know it deterministically, then yes, make it a workflow and call out just to an LLM where you need to. And there are other times where you want to have a workflow that actually calls out to an agent to go run for a while and then come back. I mean, these things should be composable. We shouldn't be saying they're the same thing, because I don't think they are. I think a workflow is something you're deterministically choosing, and an agent is something where you know that there's going to be some level of autonomy there, right? In how the choices are made, but they should be able to be composed together. And I think that's sometimes with some of these workflow builders, it's just a matter of like, what even is an agent at this point? Because it could be a workflow. If you say agent, you might mean like a visual drag and drop with one LLM call. That could be an agent, or it could mean some multi-agent system that has deep research and goes into, who knows what APIs.
Naming things is hard.
Yeah.
But despite it being hard, we have fucked up tremendously in naming things, Like you got the brightest minds in the earth doing shit right now, and we still can't name shit properly. That just makes me laugh.
Yeah. All right. So let's continuing on. So some people on the Mastra team shared this, and I thought it was really interesting. So this is from Alex Hughes, and I'll read the context here for those that might be just listening. So there is a claim that Stanford just made fine-tuning irrelevant with a single paper. That's a bold claim, but it's called agentic context engineering. It proves you can make models smarter without touching a single weight. So instead of retraining, ACE, agentic context engineering, evolves the context itself. So the model writes, reflects, and rewrites its own prompt over and over until it becomes a self-improving system. Think of it like the model keeping a living notebook. Every failure becomes a lesson, every success becomes a rule, and has really good results. And there's some numbers here. And so everyone's obsessed with short and clean prompts, but ACE flips that. It builds dense, evolving playbooks that compound over time and never forget. Because LLMs don't crave simplicity, they crave context density. If this scales, the next generation of AI won't be fine-tuned, it'll be self-tuned. So we're entering the era of living prompts. And then there's a link down here to the research report and a whole thread on it. But that's the high level, right? Is that it's the idea of rather than needing to fine tune a model with data, can you change your context over time to then get better results, right? So it's learning. And I don't think this is like revolution. I mean, the paper itself might be, but the concepts, again, this is something that if you've been using memory in your agents, your agent should be getting better, right? It might remember your name, or might remember other things. This just kind of takes it to a different level or a different extreme, maybe.
Yeah, like the memory strategies that are employed today, like long-term mem, working mem, semantic recall, they're not necessarily like evolving process, right? Like a human or you as a user needs to make sure that over time, like these things are good. You have like the right messages in the window, etc. But having like a workbook, or we call it something else internally because we are building something similar. So like this white paper kind of like acknowledged our thinking, which is great whenever that happens. But memory should be more like a human, and our memories evolve over time. Things that we thought in our 20s are different in our 30s. Times change, everything changes. So it's not necessarily, I didn't have to fine tune my brain. I just had to evolve or observe and realize what's factual, what's not. And I totally agree with the paper. The problem is in the comments there, like it doesn't fit the mental model of what context engineering means today, which is fine. It's just people don't understand it. Maybe it's a naming problem, agentic context engineering. I don't know, but it makes it seem like it's the same strategies that people employ today. It might be something different actually, altogether.
Yeah, well, I mean, in this case, it's almost like giving the agent some flexibility to control its own context, right? You're not just doing the context engineering yourself. There's some element of the agent keeping memories, important concepts, condensing information over time. But still, and this is where I think it really makes sense, is that your agent could still have access to all the memories ever, right? It has access to the data source. So it has context. It has tools to maybe go out and get more context from the actual, maybe it doesn't have the full message in its memory. It has a part of it, and it can go out and pull that information in. So it can essentially, modify its context for the prompt that comes in or over time to keep the most important of things. So it's essentially learning, but it's filling like the right amount of context depending on the model for the right amount of time. And I think there's going to be a lot of strategies, and eventually there'll be tools to help manage this. Mastra will be one of them. There'll be other tools out there that help you kind of manage this context. But this does kind of push back, because some people, especially if you're an engineer, you want to see the prompt. You want to know everything about the prompt. But as these contexts get larger, it's going to be hard to know like everything that actually goes into the prompt, because ultimately your context is almost compiled between different things and then put together.
And you have to if you're using LLMs to generate the window, then you need to understand why it generated that way. Like it becomes a lot harder, but it's probably the right thing to do. Like for example, in the human brain, like it's not a single agent. Like if we're trying to make a comparison here, your brain is not single agent. It's like multiple neurons firing at all times. And some maybe are using large language models. Some are using SLMs. Like it's not the main thread that is updating its observations or its context. It's maybe sub-agents or sub-tools. Like for example, when you like observe something, you're not waiting for your tool call in your head to be like, oh snap, it's raining right now. Like that's already happening asynchronously, and then you get fed an event. Because right now it just started raining, so that just happened to me right now. That's the type of shit that's going to happen. That's what I was saying. SLMs are probably the future, and we'll probably see a lot more in this space. We also will contribute to this era or this subject area, so stay tuned and see what our next memory implementation and stuff will be.
And Alatarg, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, says, seems we're reusing all technologies as new ones. I would agree with that. A lot of things that are what's old is new again. When we were talking about workflows, we're talking about, some of this context engineering, and also, naming is underappreciated. Naming's hard.
Naming is hard. That's why I thought memory was a good name for this shit, but maybe not. I don't know.
Yeah.
As human as possible is what naming should be.
Agreed. All right. So just a few more things. We're about to wrap up here. I don't know if this is actually launched yet, but I wanted to share this from last week because I think, it's always Abhi and I basically talk about the bar test, which is what can we ship when we're at a bar? And so now Anthropic is preparing Claude Code to be released on the mobile app, so you can connect Claude app to GitHub and run coding prompts on the go. So I don't know when this is launched yet. Maybe it's already launched. I haven't heard about it actually launching. If it's true, I can tell you Abhi and I will test this and we'll report back.
The bar test is the best test.
Yeah, it's what can we ship over a drink at the bar?
We should
And
do
so
the
far,
Bar Olympics.
it's like Dex is having like the vibe code Olympics. It's like the bar Olympics. Like while you're
Bar-
drinking on your phone, what can you ship that's valuable?
Yeah, like I'll use Cursor, you use Claude Code, someone uses Codex. We all have a pint and a shot, and there you go.
If anyone wants to participate, you know where to find us. We will set it up.
We're
try
right
it.
here, or right there in the the dog patch. So you
The
could
dog patch.
come to the saloon, and we'll have the Olympics.
Yeah, if ever want to possibly run into us when I'm in SF, if you go to the Dog Patch Saloon, you might see Abhi and me there. We
There's
just
probably a
doxed ourselves.
99.9% chance you'll see us there.
We just doxed ourselves right here on the live stream. What caught Alatarg's attention is that we use brain analogies to build your systems. I mean, we try to when it makes sense.
Yeah, the personification of human stuff.
Shots and PRs.
Shots and Ruben, dude, I think you're like my kindred spirit, dude. Great questions today.
All right, let's end with this one, which is just kind of fun. So AI music has kind of hit the scene. I'm a musician. You can see I'm in a good place today to. So I will say, like, this is just a true story. So quick tangent. I remember like when all the image models came out and I could build really cool images that I could never conceivably design. I was like, this is great. There's no negative here. And then I talked to some like graphic artists and they hated it, right? Of course, they're like completely opposed to anything because it's a new tool that maybe makes their skills slightly less valuable, right? Like that's the idea. And then with AI music, I kind of felt it a little bit because I was listening to a song and I sent it to some friends. And then one of my friends is like, yeah, dude, that's AI generated. I was like, no way. Like it was a banger. The thing was not AI generated. And it was like, it was in my genre. Like I'm kind of like heavier rock music. It was right in that genre. And then I kind of did some research, couldn't find anything about the band. And then the singer wasn't always the same between their songs. I'm like, yep, that is AI generated, but it was pretty good. And so as a musician, I'm like, maybe I am irrelevant now, So I do think that, these tools can be, can be used. And I do think there's still a skill to using these tools to generate something creative, but it is just an interesting time to be alive that yes, like you can use tools, someone with much less musical skill, but maybe a little tenacity and knowledge of how tools work can create something that's pretty cool. So did you want to share?
Yeah, so I found over the weekend, and it's probably been out for a lot longer, but I found this YouTube channel, and I'll share it right now. It's called Almost Real, and they have all these different like just songs that they've made, turning like rap music or like pop music into different genres. A lot of it's turning it. I think what they found is they found some type of like strategy to make songs into Motown soul, because a lot of their like songs are like that, and they're doubling down, as you can see. They're turning everything into Motown soul. And the song that kind of got me into it was I just saw this randomly, so I'll play it. Hey, it's Adobe. All right, so I'll play a little bit of this, and should I turn it down or up?
It could be down just a little bit from where it was at, but
cool. Oh, dude, I should get YouTube Red or whatever. Okay, let's skip this.
I just wanna chill and twist the lie, catch stunts in my 745.
Now we're gonna get a YouTube copyright name on there. Worst thing about this is a banger.
Everything you need, and I like your smile. I don't wanna see you cry. Got
so
some
good.
questions that I gotta ask, and I hope you can come up with the answers, babe. Girl, hey, it's easy to love me now.
That is.
Would you love me if I was down and out?
This song came out when I was in high school.
Still have love for me, girl.
What was that? What was the name of this song? Almost Real.
Almost real, yeah. I'll post it in our chat here for anyone who wants to listen. I listen to a bunch of songs there, and like I pretty much like I think like this week I'll probably just be listening to all these like these AI generated stuff because it's so good. And like I mean I'm a big 50 Cent fan, so I think it'll resonate with you if you like the original artist and then you see it. But yeah, go take a look if you're interested. There's so many, like 56 videos. Snoop Dogg, like from Snoop Dogg to Kid Cudi to you name it, they got it. Michael Jackson's on there too. But they are doing all Motown soul. So if you also like that, which I do, it's definitely a banger. New official outro song?
Yeah.
Potentially.
I mean, then the channel's definitely getting taken down.
Yeah.
You got to be careful. Like I've learned this the more we live stream, when we play videos, even if it's like a promo video for something, like YouTube flags anything that has any copyright, and then sometimes they'll pull down our stuff unless I contest it.
Oh, really? Do you think they're gonna contest this?
I don't know. We're gonna find out. If you can't see this video in a couple days, maybe they did. I'm sure.
Well, there's many levels of copyright away from us, right? Because then it's them, and then
well, and it is copyright's a tricky thing, but for us, it's not like we're just trying to highlight the stuff, but it is what it is. Those are the rules. We try to play by them.
Yeah, we're just trying to have fun with our friends.
Yeah. All right, everyone. That's all that we have today. Thank you for watching or listening to AI Agents Hour. As always, we do this on Mondays, usually around noon Pacific time. If you have not got your copy of Principles of Building AI Agents, you can go to mastra.ai/book and get it for yourself. You should follow Abhi and dude, it's hard to keep a straight face while you're doing that. Follow Abhi and myself on X if you're not already. Follow Mastra on YouTube. If you're listening to this in the podcast version on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please go give us a 5-star rating. It helps feed our ego, but also just helps other people find the show. And that's it for today.
Yeah. Thanks. Peace.